Hello and welcome to the Cloud Deployment Models section. This cloud deployment models pretty much refer to different ways that cloud computing services can be deployed and utilized. They essentially define where the infrastructure for your deployment resides and who has ownership and control and sovereignty over that infrastructure. So let's get into it. First, we have the public cloud. The public cloud is pretty much services that are offered over the public internet. Shared resources that you can where you can share things like servers, storage, networking with other organizations from a third party cloud provider like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. And some of the advantages here are that it's pretty cost effective and highly scalable. Some of the disadvantages are that you have less control and there's the potential security concern. That means if anything on AWS or GCP or Azure's end gets compromised, that's more than likely yours too. Some examples are, as mentioned before, Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud Platform, and Microsoft Azure to do something like host web servers or databases. Next, we have something that's called private cloud. So this is cloud infrastructure operated solely for one organization. This gives you the most control that you can get, better security, dedicated resources, and these things can be on-prem or on premises, like physically located with you, or hosted by a third-party provider. This is something that's really important if you are concerned about data sovereignty, which is pretty much when you want sensitive data to reside and never leave a certain space. This can be really important when there's certain laws dictating what type of data can go where. Particularly if you are invested in government type of contracting, you're probably going to want to deal with having a private cloud, as well as if you're dealing with sensitive or personal data that can only go but so many places. Think of healthcare or financial data or stocks or investing. So there's a lot of applications of private cloud data or data sovereignty use cases. Some of the disadvantages here are that it's really expensive. It requires a lot of expertise and oftentimes ongoing maintenance. Things like OpenStack can help with people opening up their own private cloud within their own data center. So if they have something on premises and they want to kind of make it their own private cloud to help people who are doing things remotely or the other people in the organizations that are doing things remotely. There's things like community cloud as well, where maybe multiple environments or multiple organizations have common concerns, security and compliance, all want to get together and use the same cloud service. This has a mix of help from is kind of an in between the private and public cloud, where you're not getting the same security as a private cloud, but you're definitely not as open as a public cloud is. This helps you with you have a certain group of people that are often working together and they want to share those same resources. Think of you and everyone on your street working on like pitching in to create a cloud environment. It's definitely better than the whole state, but it might be a bit different than if it was just your own personal home using it. Then we go into hybrid cloud, which is when you have a combination of public and private cloud. This can be when you leverage or utilize public resources when you have peak demand or to test a new application, while also allowing certain situations where you have like data sovereignty concerns, or this is something that only needs to be used in-house, or you switch it to private cloud when you need to use stuff for a smaller use case or for more personal issues, or there's a more privacy concern for it. So a lot of companies do use these types of platforms. Advantages is that it's more flexible, and you can use that cost balance a bit more, since you can have some things that are in the public and private and utilize whatever is the most cost effective. Some disadvantages is it's a bit more complex because you're navigating between using two types of clouds, some on-prem, some off, some private, some public, and that can make things a little bit more difficult. in order to maintain and make sure that everything goes smoothly. And then there is multi-cloud. This is when you're using multiple cloud providers to distribute workloads. This isn't the most common thing, but it's something that I figured I'd mention nonetheless. Some of the advantages are that it makes you resilient and you don't have to rely on a single provider's ecosystem or deal with if they have outages. Uh, and you might have a bit more flexibility, but the disadvantages are the same. Sometimes these cloud platforms they aren't friendly to one another. It's hard for them to integrate or talk to one another with like API inconsistencies, or they just aren't meant to work together because they're outside of each other's ecosystems. Something like this can be like you have your database on AWS, but you run your web server on Azure. This happens all the time. It's not necessarily something that's unheard of, and things can be multi-cloud while also being a private cloud. A lot of times people use these cloud deployments in ways that benefits them, so don't think of these as all of these things as one or the other. Sometimes companies use a combination of these different types of cloud deployments. And I hope you understood the cloud deployment section, and I'll see you in the next lesson.